just held the whole thing in my hand.
And here we are.
Hey there world, I'm Rob. Welcome to my channel, Rob907. Today's video, I am going to show you how to take the DB killer out of an Akrapovic Slip-on muffler for a KTM 1290R. And probably the same process. It's probably the same muffler for an S and maybe some of the other mufflers that Akrapovic makes. First, this is the stock one. Before I replace it, I'm going to give you a sound test so we can compare it later. Okay, so this is the muffler. I have already drilled the rivets out of the carbon fiber end cap and pulled the end piece with the DB killers in it. And what you got to do is drill the rivets out. They're stainless steel rivets. Looks just like this side here. I did take the heat shield off so that I wouldn't destroy it while I was moving the muffler around. And it's a little bit of work to pull this piece out. It gets pretty tight on the ends, so I put this little thin little flathead screwdriver, just kind of fit it in there and kind of work kind of a little grip, and then I'll work it out a little bit. I didn't want to get this all marked up, and then I ended up breaking this piece off in that process. So you want to be careful because it is pretty delicate. It's pretty thin, but it'll still work and won't be able to see it once I put it back together. So next step is going to be these screws here. They have these welds, so I have to get a die grinder and grind those welds off so I can back these out. I think they probably do that to keep them from backing out, because once this is installed in the muffler, there's no way to get in there and tighten them. And I've seen some people drill through the carbon fiber cap and access them that way so they don't have to pull this whole thing off, but I didn't really like the idea of that because I got some replacement stainless steel rivets, and the hope is that it's not going to look any different. Now, in case you're wondering why I didn't put this on the bike and run it for a while and then decide to do this, is because I had a 2019 1290S and I had the same muffler on it. I thought it sounded pretty good. Moved on to a GS. I was on a trip last year, and I was on my way back to Alaska, and I was in Canada at Pink Mountain. I ran into a fella with the 1290R. This fella here, and he rides a KTM Super Adventure 1290R, and he has this. What kind of gear do you put in it?
It doesn't matter. It's a 1290 Super Adventure. You can put it in whatever gear you want to.
He had taken this DB killer out, and I thought it sounded really good, and it wasn't obnoxiously loud, but just sounded like a beast. So that's why I didn't put this on the bike and run it and listen to it and decide to do it then. So I know I'm not going to regret this decision. It really did sound good, and it wasn't horribly louder either. This is the piece that's going to come out. This part here. I'm going to get to cutting on this, and we're going to find out. Okay, as you can see here, this whole piece is coming out. So what I did was I just held the whole thing in my hand, and I used this hammer here to tap on it just while I was holding it in my hand, and it came right out.
And here we are.
I want to tell you about this little end cap here. As you can see, it's all back together. Can't tell the difference. I use stainless steel rivets going back in, and there is one loud muffler. So I'm going to install this, and then we'll give it a start up here for the comparison. But I want to talk just for a minute about putting this thing back in here. This is such a tight fit. And the problem that I had was the corners. So the metal would bow out here, And the way that I got it to go in was I could fit 3 of the 4 corners, here, 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 and here. This piece would be bowed out. So what I did was I stood it up, and one end seated and then this end seated. By pulling this metal, I would put both hands on each side and push and use my thumbs on this low side, because you got the high side, it's a little more awkward up here. So I did it on this side. I pushed these 2 corners in first, and then come over to this side, and I put both hands, one hand over here, one hand here, and then I pushed the metal together on both sides, and then used my thumb as I was pushing to get this corner worked in, which was pretty easy. This one was the hardest. So I put my thumb here, and I push with the palms of my hands, and I just kept kind of pushing and working it with my thumb, and eventually it just finally went down in there. And then I was able to push the whole thing down in. That was not the hardest part. Let me tell you the hardest part. These are stainless steel rivets, and I used this, and I was almost ready to go get a rivet pliers with longer handles, because anyway, if you're going to do this, be ready for some work, because that's what it'll take. And being $1,100, I'd hate to see somebody say, oh, I'm going to do that, and then get into it and be like, oh, I can't do this. So I just wanted to be straight up with that. It wasn't that easy to get it back in there, and then squeezing the rivets. Of course, you just have to be set up and fight it a little bit, be willing to fight it. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this on now, and we're gonna see what it looks like. Oh, one more thing. Getting the screws out was actually really easy. I just ground just a little bit on the welds that were holding those in place, and then they just pop right out. The DB killers with that hammer, just a little tap, like I was saying, it came right out, no problem. The hardest part was probably using those to squeeze the rivets. So you get some bigger ones, longer handles, maybe that'd be better, or a pneumatic one, which I don't think you're supposed to do pneumatic on stainless steel rivets, as per my professional riveter guy friend that I called. He said, you're not supposed to do that. But we do what we want, which is why I'm doing this in the first place. Okay, on the bike we go. Instructions showed to get the stock graphite gasket, and I almost put this on without putting it on. There's a lip here and a lip on this side, and it just holds it together. But there is a gasket that fits inside that, so you have to take it out of the old one and reuse it here. And now that it's on there, we're gonna give it a start. That's the difference between the way they sound with them in and with them out. Definitely a difference.